And now
Awesome.
we're bringing in A. Rubin.
Hurry! Boo boo!
And he's connecting. Feel like the old AOL when it like
I was just thinking about that. And I was doing the modem thing in my head.
yes. Yeah.
Okay. So- Oh, there he is.
Yes.
Hi.
Sorry, we're
Hey
running just a
guys, how
little,
are you?
doing well. Sorry, we're
Good.
a few minutes behind.
That's okay. It's okay. I'd want to
Yes.
spend more time with Wayne as well.
Yeah. Hey, we love spending time with you guys all the
Oh yeah,
time. So,
all of you. Yes.
yeah.
Maybe we should have just had a big room, but then I don't know, that might have been chaotic.
A lot of
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
Oh, a big round robin. Woo! That
Yes.
would have been a little chaotic, definitely.
Oh my goodness.
But do you want to introduce? You can introduce Ari.
Yes. And so Ari goes by A. Rubin for all of his
Mhm.
writing. He is a poet, an author. He's just amazing. His poetry is just, it's so in the vein of Poe, and we just appreciate him so much. And he is
Mhm.
also a judge for us.
Yes, yes.
That he judged for us last year as well. And he
He's
won.
also our alumni
Yes,
for the
that's
Poet Like Poe.
yes,
And
he is. So that's what's even cooler.
mhm. So we
Awesome.
like
Thank you
that
guys.
he's here. And so Ari, you want to tell us, you want to read first, do your poem, and then give us a little bit of information about what's going on in your life, or do you want
Yes.
you just
What,
take
whatever,
it and you
whatever,
run.
whatever way you want me to do it.
All
Whatever
right,
way
you
you want me to do
take
it.
it and run.
Yes. Yeah. It's your, you take it.
Yeah.
Um,
It's your
all right,
time.
then,
We'll
my
turn it to
time.
you.
Yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
Yes.
All right. So what I signed up to do was actually something a little bit different. Was to read from the Purloined Letter. Even though it was it's a poetry focused event, and even though last year I read two poems. Last year I read my poem that won the first Poet Like Poe competition, and I also read The Bells, which is my favorite poem by Poe. But I wanted to read this couple of little sections from the Purloined Letter, uh, where you wouldn't think that in a mystery story, Poe would be talking so much about poetry, but the solution to the Purloined Letter, if you haven't read it, I guess mute for a couple of minutes because it's involved in the solution here. Um, Dupin is able to figure out the solution to solve the case because he's able to think like a poet, and he recognizes that the suspect, ultimately the culprit in the story, is um, is a poet, and that's what allowed him to fool the police who were investigating the case. So, if you're not familiar with the Purloined Letter, it is one of Poe's Dupin stories. Poe, in addition to being a poet and his gothic horror and all that, was known, and I heard Wayne talking about this a little bit at the end, as writing the first mystery stories. And Dupin is actually the model for the consulting detective, it's often referred to in Sherlock Holmes, both good and bad, but definitely influenced everything that came after that. In the Purloined Letter, uh, there is a letter that was stolen, hence the title, and the police search the room where the letter supposedly is. They search the house. They're looking inside of chair legs and for false, drawers under desks and different places that someone can secretly hide a letter. They pull up all the floorboards. Uh, they're looking for somewhere where someone would secretly deposit a letter. Dupin is able to find the letter, which is basically hidden in plain sight. And he says that even though the cops, um, or the specific investigator in the case, did a very thorough job investigating the case from a rational perspective, he was unable to solve it because he only looked at it rationally. He only looked at it to the extent of his training and his reading, and he made a mistake in not realizing that the culprit was a poet and in not thinking like a poet. So in essentially the parlor scene where he's explaining the case, um, he says that the functionary performed all his duties to the best of his capability, but this functionary, however, had been thoroughly mystified, and the remote source of his defeat lies in the supposition that the minister is a fool because he has acquired renown as a poet. All fools are poet, this the prefect feels, and he is merely guilty of a non distributio medi in thence inferring that all poets are fools. But is this really a poet? I asked. There are two brothers I know, and both have obtained reputations in letters. The minister, I believe, has written learnedly on differential calculus. He is a mathematician and no poet. You are mistaken. I know him well. He is both. As a poet and mathematician, he would reason well. As mere mathematician, he could not have reasoned at all, and thus would have been at the mercy of the prefect. You surprise me, I said, by these opinions which have been contradicted by the voice of the world. You do not mean to set at naught the well-digested idea of centuries. The mathematical reason has long been regarded as the reason par excellence. And then he goes into a long diatribe against math and how the limits of seeing things um, mathematically. Um, and let me skip a little bit where he thinks that there's things beyond math, and he recognizes that people, um, even though the pagan mythologies are objectively false and objectively wrong, we often use them to describe his to describe reality. We draw our illusions from them. We draw our explanations of life as much from the old myths as we do from the scientific beliefs, and you need both of them um, in order to describe um, describe your reality. Hold on, I just lost my place for a minute. Give me a second. Um, I'm going to skip down a couple of paragraphs. I mean to say, continued Dupin, while I merely laughed at his last observation, that if the minister had been no more than a mathematician, the prefect would have been under no necessity of giving me this check. I knew him, however, as both mathematician and poet, and my measures were adapted to his capacity with reference to the circumstances which, by which he was surrounded. And then he goes on, he knew him as a courtier too, and his daring and all of that kind of stuff. A couple of paragraphs later, um, and this is again having to do with the techniques of poetry. The material world, continued Dupin, abounds in the very strict analogies to the immaterial, and thus some color of truth has been given to the rhetorical dogma that metaphor or simile may be made to strengthen an argument as well as to embellish description. Um, I'm going to stop there. I encourage you to read the whole Purloined Letter. It's actually my favorite Poe story. But I think that even at his most rational, even in the area which you would think has the least to do with poetry, you could see that ultimately Poe's first love and his soul is that of a poet,
Yes.
um, even in his most rational of stories.
Absolutely. I
I
mean,
agree. It's that the creative and the logic all mesh together. Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of the metaphor and simile and all of that kind of stuff, I know that one of the things I appreciate most about Poe's poetry is not only the mood and the tone and all of that, but the way he uses various poetical techniques. Um, he's
mhm.
incredible with meter. He's incredible with the rhythm and the meter and with his similes and metaphors and all of those kinds of things. And I know that when I use him as a model of, for my poetry, that's what I'm looking towards as much as anything else. and he does it so well that it just appears naturally. And then you go
Yeah.
back and you look at the way, you look at the way the rhythm works in something like the Raven, where it's in, you know, um, trochaic octameter, which is just a strange metrical thing, but it just works to create the tone is created as much by the way he uses those techniques as by the contents of the actual poem,
Yeah.
which is something that I'll be looking for in the poems that come in as well.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Oh, yeah. Ari, I was really excited when you decided to read this part of the Purloined Letter. I was like, how poetic,
Yeah.
and I just because it is of the three Dupine stories, it is my absolute favorite. So,
I
yeah.
think, I think it's my favorite of all the short stories.
Okay. Oh, wow.
I think it is.
It's
I
great. It's a
even
great one.
even though I currently have a Telltale Heart retelling that just came out yesterday.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, in Pseudopod,
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
that published just a Telltale Heart, so I really should say the Telltale Heart promote that. But I'm gonna be honest and say that the Purloined Letter is probably my most favorite Poe story, and the reason for that is actually because of this solution, because I remember reading it for the first time and having him tell the inspector completely unexpected, you need to think like a poet. The reason you didn't solve this case is because you were too rational, because you didn't think like a poet.
Yeah.
Um, and
Mhm.
then, you know, um, that was, I remember that reading that very vividly the first time that I read the story.
Mhm.
Yeah. And one of the things that I love about Poe, even in his short stories and with his poetry, it reminds me a lot of the epic poems in the early days, like Beowulf and everything. It tells a story, So even with Poe's poetry, the short stories, everything, he's like telling a little bit of a story. And like with the Purloined Letter and solving cases and everything, life is a story. So you kind of got to follow through with that. So I'm glad you reread it. Thank you.
Yes, yes. This was a great addition to
Hmm.
the poems and stories that have been read today.
Yeah, no, I'm
Yes.
not sure you have a lot of poetry. I did it last year. I read a lot. I decided to maybe do just something a little different towards the end.
Yeah, no, we love it. And so we need to check out say the name again to hear your retelling of the Telltale Heart.
Oh, the Telltale Heart. So my story is called The Vibrations Louder, and
Okay.
it
Oh, wow.
is
Nice.
a modern retelling of the Telltale Heart, involving a cell phone, and
Oh,
it just came out yesterday
Okay.
on Pseudopod, the
Pseudopod.
our
Okay. All
podcast.
right.
I can put the link in the comments, I guess.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, no, please do check it out. They did a great job. I mean, they have a narrator that makes the story sound a lot better than when I
Oh,
read it in my head.
cool.
Uh, so there's the story is there in text form, but I encourage you to listen to it as well on their
yeah.
podcast.
I'm writing it down, so make sure I remember to go back and look.
Yep.
Yeah, but I'll put
I
it
Pseudopod.
like the title too.
Yeah, no, that was I originally had it as the Telltale Ringtones, and they asked me to come up with a different title. Because
Okay.
so
Oh,
that was the second title I came up with. So at the
Yeah.
encouragement of the editors, and I think they're right, it is a better title.
Yeah.
oh,
Um,
cool.
so
Yes.
I just put it
Sometimes they
into
have good
yeah.
they have good suggestions.
Yeah.
Uh,
So,
Um,
what, anything else that you're working on right now that we can look forward to in the near
um,
future?
I'm fulfilling my campaign from last year, the Awful Alphabet. I'm sending out books. They should be arriving if you supported the campaign. They should be arriving imminently. I know some people have received them already, some people haven't.
Okay.
Um, I'm still shipping things out through the end of next week, but I'd say about 75% of them are already shipped out. And then
Okay.
I'll have to decide when to, you know, open selling it to everybody else afterwards. And then I'm just, querying my novel right now. Um,
Okay.
I have another short story coming out in Troll Breath later this month. Actually, already came out for subscribers to Troll Breath, but it'll be free sometime in April. They do every Friday. They do one issue, but yeah, that's basically what's going on now. I'm actually working on something pretty cool with the Poe It Like Poe poem, the Nightwalker's poem that won the
Oh,
first poetry contest, but I can't really talk about that yet.
Okay. Oh,
oh,
That's
okay.
coming. Yeah,
exciting.
yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome. That's
We
awesome.
love it. Yes.
Yes. Well, we
So,
appreciate you joining us today.
mhm.
This was great.
Oh, thank
Yes.
you so
And
much. Thank you for having me.
Steve actually said you've convinced him to go back and reread the Purloined Letter, and he says that as a Sherlock Holmes fan.
Well, my novel is that I'm querying as a Sherlock Holmes
Yeah.
universe novel. So I did a lot of research into Sherlock Holmes, and also Dupin does appear as a character in it. So I reread all of the Dupin stories recently.
Oh, great.
Awesome. So
That,
there you go, Steve. You get the best of both worlds.
yes.
So thank you, thank
Oh,
you, thank you, thank
thank
you,
you for
Ellie.
having me. Thank you for me
Yes.
including me in this
Okay.
great all-star lineup that you have here. And
Well, thank you
I
for
hope
being a
that we
judge
had
on our contest.
yeah,
We love
and
that
I
too.
hope
Yes.
we get you had so many good entries last year.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
many really strong poems, and I hope to read some more.
I know. I'm
Yeah.
excited for all the entries that'll be coming in.
Yep.
So,
Hmm.
all right. Well, Ari,
All
thank
right.
you again. And I know we'll be talking to you
Oh,
soon.
thank you
Yep.
so much.
Thank
See
you.
ya.
All right.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye bye.